The problem is that within marginal communities, the system of capitalism has created a situation of perpetual evictions, which has not only destroyed psychologically those people, and in particular the psychological health of children, that every few months go through that trauma of being pushed out of their home, but it's destroyed the cohesiveness of neighborhoods because people can no longer be invested in a neighborhood. And you talk about how in the 30s, as you correctly point out, people would get up and block the sheriffs from carrying out foreclosures and evictions. And capitalism, corporate capitalism, has a wonderful system whereby they destroy the cohesiveness that made that kind of resistance possible. We have to remember that basically in marginal communities, the men are imprisoned and the women and children are evicted. And that is by design. This is what Marx called surplus labor. Those people are preyed upon because, of course, if you are living in a post-industrial city, you don't generate money for a corporation, but if they lock you in a cage, you generate $40,000 or $50,000 a year. The same thing with evictions. You go into inner cities. I wrote a chapter in my book, Days of Destruction, Days of Revolt, in Camden. Rents in Camden are astronomical. Why are they astronomical? Because nobody has access to the banking system. Nobody can get out. There's no control. And the legal system, including the home moving companies, that's all they do is evict. Wow. Storage companies, is just like the prison. They're whole corporate entities now built around those systems of oppression. And so we ask, why don't they go out and block the sheriff? Well, they don't, because we're not in those communities. We don't understand what's been done to those people, to crush them, to disconnect them, the rates of depression, the insecurity, all of that. And none of us could endure that. And again, that gets back to this really dark system of what Sheldon Wilson calls inverted totalitarianism, corporate capitalism. And you have to look now, we did that, consciously wrote about sacrifice zones like Camden, because you have to look really closely at what we have allowed to be done to the vulnerable in our society, because it's true, we've now all become a massive sacrifice zone. And we got all caught up in the boutique activism of identity politics and gender politics and diversity, and we forgot about justice. So why do black people, as you pointed out, not trust white people? Because they all redefined feminism. Feminism should be, if you read Andrea Dworkin, about empowering poor women, oppressed women. No, it's about a woman president. It's about a woman CEO. The same thing with GBLT rights. The same thing with, look, the bottom 2/3 of African Americans in this country are far worse off, not just economically, but in terms of systems of oppression than when King marched in Selma. And I really do blame the white liberals for that, because they all got caught up in this game of smiley faces of diversity, which were just used as a mask or to divert attention from horrific, brutal, amazingly cruel, rapacious forms of. I teach in a prison, not so much for my students, but because I need to know. I need, as a white male, I'm not going to know what's going on otherwise. And that is a problem, that we don't know. We don't know how bad it is. Poor people of color know, but the rest of us, and get on the media because they're invisible. Nobody, they've vanished. Papers don't even have labor correspondents anymore. They're utterly invisible.
It's true. The black political class is culpable as well. they have been in charge, at least nominally, of these cities, through which that send the vast majority of black folks to jail. They have the situation that the brother explained in Philadelphia obtains in many places across the country. So it's not just white liberals. It is those who are who have become collaborators with this corporate rule system.
Well, that's how colonialism works. It's colonial. It's corporate colonialism.
Domestic neocolonialism.
Right, neocolonialism. You find that, that face.
Right.
I taught, one of the last class I taught before this one was on conquest. We read Open Veins of Latin America, Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee, C.L.R. James's Black Jacobins. And I asked, what's the common theme of how revolutionary radical movements are destroyed? Those dominant forces find people in those movements to betray. Sitting Bull was murdered by a Lakota Sioux in a white man's tribal police uniform. That's how it works.
And in every every struggle for national independence against a colonial power, the revolutionaries find that they must fight their way through, kill more fellow Africans, and kill more fellow Vietnamese than they do French and Portuguese and English colonialists, because, you got to get through them to get to the enemy. And it's the same thing with us here.
And just to add that where there are, community struggles, and communities are struggling all over the place, I think our job as privileged white people who have enormous resources and benefits from the system of white supremacy. Our job is to go there to support the communities, to support the struggles in their fights as they define them. So it's not like we're going in to organize them. They're already organizing, and our job is to help them organize. So recently, there have been a whole number of victories in the climate justice movement, and particularly around indigenous lands and treaty rights, where the support of the environmental community and the climate community and the white community has been really critical to those victories. And the way that happened is really, I think it's a model. These were the struggles being undertaken by the indigenous nations who asked for our support. So we came there and gave our support. And I think it's just important to go there to help in the struggle that the community has defined. Not to be defining ourselves what we think that struggle is, but to go there to support their struggle for justice as they see it in their terms.
And an example of that is the system of mass incarceration, the resistance within the prisons. They are so far ahead of us politically. They don't give a damn because there's a national conversation about mass incarceration. They've heard that shit so much time. They don't think anybody's gonna go and overcome these lobbyists for Corrections Corp of America, Global Tel Link, or JPAIR, or anyone else that are right. They are organizing from California to Alabama to Ohio, a mass prison strike.
It's going on right now.
Yeah, there is. It just ended in Alabama. They tweet me. They all got clandestine cell phones. But they are organizing with Alabama, with the Free Alabama movement. They are organizing on the anniversary of Attica, September 9th, and you both should, I don't know if you know about it, a massive prison shutdown nationwide because in our system of neo-slavery, no prison runs without prison labor. And they said to me, don't tell all those people to go to the State House or the Capitol, go to the prison parking lot and show us that you're there. And there is more. August Wilson said, where are the great warriors of the African American community? They're locked behind bars, and that is true. I teach them, and they get the system, and they get what's going to break it. And I can tell you, they got so many ways to make your life hell. What these people are doing takes so much courage and integrity. You know how they broke? You know how they broke Alabama? You know how they broke that strike? They stopped feeding them. because they were
Use food as a weapon. That's
Yeah,
what we
they
talking
were-
Bird
about.
feeding.
they were tweeting me
Right.
pictures of their trays. So this is where our energy has to go. This is what we have to do. There are highly conscious political classes among the oppressed who, under conditions not one of us in this room can imagine, who are rising up with tremendous integrity to fight back, and we got to stand with them.